Well, howdy, howdy. Another one of these not so everyday daily devotionals. We're going to go through Oswald Chambers' My Utmost for Your Highest again, for his highest, sorry. And I actually figured out how to get the Kindle to show up here again. I don't know why I couldn't before, but it is showing up again. It's kind of glitch. I figured it out when I was trying to throw my logos up, and it didn't come up at first, and then I had to like open the screen up, and anyways, just a little glitchy technical stuff, but I have it so everybody can read along with no problem now. So that's awesome. And if you this is the first time you've been on here, um, what I'm doing is more for myself to keep myself, you know, continually reading the Bible and staying in the Word, which besides just which I do ministry stuff and study a lot, but it's important also just do it for yourself. And one of the easiest ways is to buy you one of these 365 day a year devotionals and throw it next to your toilet, um, put it on your desk, anywhere you're going to be every day, and just pick it up. And it only takes a couple of minutes to read most of them. Most of them are real short. This one's real short also. And you at least can say you did that. And it gets you in the habit. Gets you in the habit of actually spending some time in the Word because we're so hectic and everything. So, of course, you can get on your Kindle like I have it here and be right there in your hand. But it's kind of good to actually have the physical book. I have a bunch of them, the physical ones also that you can put there and actually have a physical book there that you can, it'll remind you, you know, as you're doing your business or whatever. You could say, oh, well, I'm sitting here instead of playing on my phone, playing on X or whatever, or playing on YouTube, and you can read for a couple minutes and actually make it a productive time. Anyways, let's get into this. Pull it up on my screen. This is August 29th. Reading from, if you actually have this book, or you want to get it, it's My Utmost for His Highest. It's Oswald Chambers. It's a classic. Anyways, the unsurpassed intimacy of tested faith. And this the highlighted verse here is Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" It's from John 11:40. Every time you venture out in your life of faith, you will find you will find something in your circumstances that, from a common sense standpoint, will flatly contradict your faith. Yeah, but common sense is not faith. Common sense is not faith. I'll highlight that. And faith is not common sense. We'll highlight that too. In fact, they are as different as the natural life and the spiritual. Can you trust Jesus Christ where your common sense cannot trust him? Can you venture out with courage on the words of Jesus Christ while the realities of your common sense life continue to shout, "It's a lie"? When you are on when you are on the mountaintop, it's easy to say, "Oh yes, I believe God can do it." But when you have to come down from the mountain to the demon possessed valley and face the realities that scoff at your mountain of transfiguration belief, see, every time my theology becomes clearer to my own mind, I encounter something that contradicts it. As soon as I say, "I believe God shall supply all my need," the testing of my faith begins. Philippians 4:19. When we when my strength runs dry and my vision is blinded, will I endure this trial of my faith victoriously, or will I turn back in defeat? Faith must be tested because it can only become your intimate possession through conflict. What is challenging your faith right now? The test will either prove your faith right or it will kill it. Jesus said, "Blessed is he who is not offended because of me." The ultimate thing is confidence in Jesus. We have become partakers of Christ if we hold the beginnings of our confidence steadfast to the end. Believe steadfastly on Him, and everything that changes you, you will strengthen your faith. This is continual testing in the life of faith to the point of our physical death, which is the last great test. Faith is absolute trust in God. Trust that can never imagine that He would forsake us. And this comes from Hebrews 13:5 and 6. Okay, so testing of faith. And it's kind of imagine, okay, this guy wrote this in the 1890s or something like that, in the late 1800s. So he's way outdated, and even he's asking these are focused on these points where he comes in his life where he has to, face these trials of things in his face that don't add up to what he believes. And can you imagine him today on social media and in this world period, in America now, the Christianized America that we live in now? I mean, it's got to be much harder, especially if you spend any time on social media, on X or whatever, with everybody bombarding you with whatever their beliefs are. There's so many religions, including, as Jay calls it, the religion of atheism. Um, anyways, there's just so many perspectives, and we've gotten so segregated on our thought that it does get hard sometimes, and it seems like everybody wants to argue their side and their belief and their you know and and we shouldn't listen, hear him out. But he says a really funny thing in here that I really don't quite understand. And I guess his process of the way he came to Christ is probably way different than not mine was. Um, but through logic and through common sense and through things like the Occam razor and statistical probabilities and things like that is where I found most of my faith. I mean, I believed before, but I had some really low points in my life where it was like, whatever, this is nonsense. But it's through the sciences and through history and through the study of history of sciences even, and that I found more faith. And I guess that's not common sense. So I guess he has a point there. It's not common sense. I had to really seek those things. And maybe he does have a point there. Yeah, what is common sense? If it's just what the common person has of his understanding of his world, then I guess he does have a point. If you're not seeking and going out and searching, then you're not going to get past just the common sense. I guess that makes sense. Um, but that's why a lot of people, when they hit me with things in rebuttals and even anger and and boasting about, oh, I know more about the Bible than you do, I'm just like, okay, great, that's awesome. And I forgot more than you'll ever know, and it's like, that's wonderful, wonderful. But don't stop there, don't stop where you're at. You know, just because you're in a place where you don't know and you're in this chaotic, obviously angry at the world and God and everything else. If you're at that point, I can't do much for you. But my biggest advice to you is don't stop. Keep on seeking. Keep diving. And eventually God's going to show you. He's going to show it to you in the most strange, bizarre places that, oh, this is right. I've seen this over here. Oh, especially if you've gone through the Bible and it didn't do anything for you. You're just like, oh, this is a bunch of myth and just made up man, you know, junk. You'll see it. You'll see it where you're like, oh, and I still to this day, it's like, and I've studied a lot. of the Bible. Still, every time I get in there, most time I find something where I'm like, oh, I see this over here. I see this over here. I see this in our modern physics, or I see this in our modern biology, or something like that. It's just like there's so much brilliance that was written in there to a people that had no idea even what he was saying, what he was putting on those words, and the people that were transcribing it, um, or were divinely inspired or whatever, didn't even know what they were saying. Same thing with the prophecies and all. It's like they didn't even know what they didn't know what, because they didn't see the future. They're just, this is what I see. This is what I see in my dreams, and whatever pathway they saw these things, and they just wrote it down. And they're like, okay, I don't know where this is going, but one day this is gonna be awesome, guys. Okay. And now we can look back. We have the advantage that we can look back and say, wow, that is so cool. That is so cool. Look how that lines up with that. Oh man, look at, you know, and the more you dive in, the more you dive into whatever it is, I mean, it, your perspective starts to change. You know what I mean? It's, it's like science is supposed to be so antithetical to Christianity. And it's not. It lines up perfectly. It's your worldview that you start from that makes it not align. You know what I mean? It's if you start with a biblical worldview and understand what God was doing through all this time, then your scientific endeavors show that and result from that. But if you start from a worldview where nothing exists and we're just here for no reason, and then your science in whatever you study is going to be based on that. So if you merge them together, you start looking at them together, hand in hand, you start finding out, oh, this all lines up. It makes complete sense. And the more and more you do it, the more and more sense it makes. So I guess my rebuttal to him would be go beyond the common sense, you know. And not everybody's going to do that, and not everybody's built that way. I understand that most people are not going to go beyond, the normal everyday life, and I get that. I mean, that's where I guess this real faith comes from. Just believing because you believe, because you've seen what God's done in your life. And that's where faith, I have a hard time with this blind faith idea that faith is blind. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that faith, there is such a thing as blind faith, unless you're just a complete moron, which God bless you. Like, I wish I had that blind faith, that ability to just believe, just to believe. But I look at faith like this. Faith is when you've seen a chair, you've sat in a chair, you've sat in a chair in the office, you've sat in a chair in your home, you've sat in a chair in your car, you've sat in a chair on your back porch, and then you go to a brand new place and it's full of chairs. So you walk into a church, it's full of chairs, full of people sitting on those chairs, and you can see the evidence of this. And it's like, I think I can just pop my butt in this chair with no problem because I have faith that that chair is going to hold me up because there's evidences of that. Okay. Same way with faith. I have read the Gospels at least, and I see these four accounts, these testimonies, these legal, like they were in a court of law, be four different views of the same event. And by these testimonies, I see validity in there. And then I if you want to go past there, you cross reference it with Josephus and other guys like that were outside of the faith that still account for Jesus in the historical sense. And then you're like, oh, okay, there's evidence here. And then you give it a chance. You give them a chance, or whatever. I hate to use that kind of terminology, but you start seeking God. You start praying to God. You start seeking His wisdom and calling out to Him, and then He shows you. There's then the evidences start. You start seeing those evidences, and your own testimony it starts building. And then when you hit those times where you get slapped in the face with some rebuttal or something that just you can't answer, you're like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not that well versed in this. I have no idea how they answer that, and it actually makes me question too. Then you can rely on that trust of, well, I sat in this chair before. I've been sitting in this chair for this many years, this however this long, and I've seen what this chair has done, and how it's held me up, and how it's sustained me, and how it's never failed me, and how I've it's always been there. And why wouldn't I trust it now? Why would I stop trusting that chair? Why would I not just be have enough faith to just plop right back down in it and be like, it's always worked for me. It's never let me down. It's there. So, anyways, how much time we got? 15 minutes. That's a good time. It's been fun. It's been good. I like these. We may have to continue with the old Oswald chamber, even though I did have one. If you go back a couple days ago, I did have one where I argued a little bit harder on him because one thing I just totally did not agree. I don't even remember what it was now. But anyways, thank you for showing up and showing out. Love you guys. God bless. Peace out.